But loss wasn't the only thing that Ruth was experiencing, or at least soon would be experiencing. Because if she were determined to follow Naomi into the land of Judah, it would mean that she would not only know what it was like to be an outsider, someone from another country, but she would experience all the bigotry and prejudice that goes with being a hated outsider. You see, Ruth was a Moabite. She traced her lineage all the way back to the birth of Moab, the son of Lot and his daughter after the destruction of Sodom. The relationship between the Israelites and the Moabites was frequently a tense one, sometimes outright violent. Ruth could have decided that following Naomi wouldn't have been the wisest course of action. She would have to endure the looks and whispers that go along with being an outsider. It would have been so much easier to just remain where she was among her own people. But she didn't. She remained devoted to Naomi. She trusted Naomi. And she clung to her, believing that Naomi wouldn't betray her trust. She followed Naomi into Judah, a Moabite in the land of Israel. You may know what it's like to experience the looks and stares of other people, whether it's in the workplace, family gatherings, or even church. The whispered discussions that suddenly go quiet when you enter the room. You know what it's like to be the outsider. I do too. I feel like a Moabite in the land of Israel when I speak to the Baylor World Religions class about MCC churches. I still feel like a Moabite in the land of Israel after years of sitting down to lunch each month with other local ministers. And I know you have the same feelings in your own life. But the question is, can we remain faithful to God despite our fears and feelings of otherness? If we look at the story of Ruth, we find our own story as she gathers up her courage and crosses into the land of Israel, fearing the worst, but placing her hope in her mother-in-law. We can also place our hope in God when we are faced with our fears. Ruth placed her trust in Naomi when the most logical course of action would have been to remain in Moab and remarry. In fact, Naomi encouraged her to do just that, but Ruth didn't follow the popular course of action. She went against the grain, clinging to Naomi. The popular course of action is to take some me time on Sunday morning. We work 40 hours a week or more, and we deserve a little R&R. Joining in community with a like-minded body of believers goes against the grain today. The popular course of action is not to give your hard-earned money to the church, even if its ministries are changing lives. We work hard for our money and deserve to spend it on our own pleasure or save it for our retirement. Giving to church ministries goes against today's grain. Ruth clung to Naomi even when it would have been easier to do otherwise. She was committed to Naomi even when the popular choice would have been to look after her own self-interests. Ruth provides inspiration for us when we are inclined to follow the crowds. Ruth was faithful to Naomi when the odds were stacked against them. The odds weren't good for two women on their own in a patriarchal society. But Ruth was willing to take the risk because of her love and devotion for Naomi. As long as she was with Naomi, Ruth was willing to face the odds. Are we that committed to God? If I'm honest with myself and with all of you, then I would have to say more times than not, I'm not that steadfast in my commitment. But when I need encouragement, all I have to do is open the Bible and turn to the story of Ruth. It's like looking at an old family photo album. It brings me strength, inspiration, and even a smile or two. I hope you can do the same. Amen.